Greetings, everybody! Welcome to the Dracovin Empire. Are you ready to dive into the world of darkness once more? I am your host, your guide, your emperor here at the Empire, Tantus. Greetings and welcome. Are you ready to learn of another thing related to the Garou, the werewolves of the world of darkness? I, as your guide, opener of your portal, can lead you there. But please, do remember, tip a little before we leave. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. It does help here at the channel. And do the other various support things. And of course, let me know what you think of our exploration today in the comments. Stolen Moons. It's a discussion. An interesting one. The gauntlet has been broken. The gateway is open. Are you ready to go? Are you prepared to face the darkness? Take my hand. We leave. Once again, we've arrived. Now, this is an interesting point, because what we're speaking of today is deeply related to things from older editions, but it's exemplified in, of course, 5th edition. Yes, I am very much oftentimes a vocal complainer about various things related to 5th edition, but this is one of those points in time where I do say things are oftentimes sometimes done well in these later editions. I say more in Vampire than I do for Werewolf, but even Werewolf gets some things right. In this case, Stolen Moons are a combination of stuff from older editions in a lot of ways, a more blanket term that we're going to be exploring. And they just do discuss it in these two books here. The core book from 5th edition, and of course the Shattered Nation book, dives into Stolen Moons. Maybe that's where we should start exploring it, because we do have to explain it and how it relates to things from older editions. This new blanket group created in 5th edition. What are Stolen Moons? They're basically humans that have become shifters, changers. But they aren't Farah. Especially Werewolf. But it's not because of any other reason. Not because they're kin and experience the first change. Think about that. Now, even in 5th edition, they say, you know, you are a werewolf, you have the first change, that kind of thing. We're skipping the first change. We're skipping kin. So even in older editions, you're not even kin. You maybe kinfolk could become a Stolen Moon, but yes, and that's an entirely thing there. So you are basically someone that is forcing yourself to become a werewolf when you're just a normal mortal. Maybe you could be kinfolk, or maybe you're not. And this has existed in older editions, but now it's the blanket term Stolen Moon for all beings that basically, because there were different groups that found different ways to become Garou in different editions, basically. So a thing about the Stolen Moon is, hey, this is going to be the obvious thing. Hated by Garou. Hated by them. They use abhorrent rituals that oftentimes basically take in Garou's skins and hearts. Or they make deals with horrible spirits, or basically there's some kind of curse on them that gives them a shape-changing ability. One of these things happen. Now, I will note a little bit. We will talk a little bit about the older edition versions before we're done today. We'll get to that. So, it's the thing that all Garou are werewolves, but not all werewolves are Garou. That's the concept behind it. Some can take the form of wolf or human by gaining that ability, basically cheating the system. And the shape-changer is not what makes a Garou, because Stolen Moons don't really have a connection to Gaia. In the most perverse form, it's bloody carnage that can result from this. Some have personal motivations for trying this transformation. In envy of werewolves, of Garou, and trying to seek forbidden ways to become them. They're oftentimes misguided, pitiable, but oftentimes also dangerous. And this can be a danger not only to themselves, but anybody nearby. You're dealing with powers you should not. Stuff that can maybe drive you mad. The bargains or rights they make, very few that become a Stolen Moon understand how it works. the dark path they're choosing to go down. And the aftermath of what they've done, whether it's physical pain, mental anguish, both of them, they don't know about it. Some end up wanting revenge in the world for their own choices, basically this horrific ruin they brought about themselves that has corrupted them in some kind of way. Other vendetta against anybody that may have wronged them. And they all tend to hate Garou because they got it good. They just transformed. I wanted to be like you. I can't. Now, the thing is, because there's a lot of different versions of Stolen Moons, again, blanket term, there are some times when Garou packs will deal with them. But it goes by case by case. If you're one person that basically used werewolf flesh and hearts to become one, you know, you're dead. You murdered a Garou to become a werewolf. Yeah, you're gone. But if you ended up getting contact with a wolf spirit somehow as a non-Garou and made a deal with it accidentally, or a pact with it accidentally in some kind of bad way, yeah, you know, if a Stolen Moon ceases all its enmity towards Garou, then basically the pack that contacts you will try to help you out. Yeah, you made a bad pact with a spirit. You made a mistake with that. You a misguided thing. Maybe you're cursed in a lot of ways, whether it's from the spirit or something else. If you don't bother them, if you don't get angry with them, they can try to help you. There are some that take the deal, and fewer that actually, like, don't still get caught up in the murder, rage, envy that is there. But there are successes in amongst those that have accidentally found horrific curses on themselves and become half werewolves, you could almost call them. Or technically werewolves, but not Garou. So when they're accepted, they never become a functioning member of any sept. Pack lookout, bodyguard, basically contacts with obscure occult circles. There are jobs for a Stolen Moon that is been reformed in a lot of ways. So a werewolf that is not a Garou, a Stolen Moon, can't get the nuanced forms, a Hypso or Glabru. They have no patron spirits. They don't have an awareness of the Umbra at all, let alone access it or see spirits, and gifts are rare amongst them. And no spirit in his right mind would bestow this creature its knowledge, basically forcing them, if they want to gain some gifts, to do it in more horrible means like they've already done. Yeah, because you're only getting the 3 forms, and you can only never really get the abilities, the spiritual connection to guide. Unfortunately for them. Now, there are a couple of individuals that we know are Stolen Moons. One from more recent editions, and one older. The more recent one is one from one of the books, Track Morrison. If you want to look up him, he transformed himself into a Stolen Moon. He's got an entire the right track with Track Morrison kind of thing. You can check that out. But also an S.B. Ronson is also another. But this is from Hunter the Reckoning, Alma Mater's. And this is technically 5th edition, but it is from 2024. So it's an interesting thing that he's another version of it. And that's kind of where we come to this entire thing, I think, too. Because Ronson used profane magic to become a werewolf, basically. It's a different path. Track, I didn't really dive too deep into it, but he devoured the heart of a Garou. He's the kind of horrible killing Garou to gain power. So, you know. But it's one of those things that we now have to kind of talk about the other, I want to call it elephant in the room, because it's one of those things that's kind of like, it's older editions. But there was an entire group that was part of the Stolen Moons and was going to be the original source, and we'll do a video about them and talk about them, because they are an interesting group, but they also have possible connotations about them. So, Skin Dancers. Skin Dancers are from older editions. and they're a legacy of the infamous Samuel Haggett. Basically, they're kinfolk that use the ritual of sacred rebirth to become full Garou. Basically, a forbidden ritual. That's the idea behind it. Kinfolk that used the forbidden ritual, they became Garou. They're Stolen Moons. Why don't we talk about them in 5th edition? Well, there's an idea that, again, here's one of those things that, taking a step back, when we talk about older editions, especially the first couple editions of World of Darkness stuff, there's oftentimes, when I talk about here on the video, it's kind of hard to tell where the cultural sensitivity and sensitivity is in these places with these things. It's sort of like when we get to the 20th anniversary era, we're pretty good at understanding and being able to display a lot of these cultures in a reasonable manner, but before that, it didn't really exist in a good way. The fact is that Stolen Moons were kind of the name of it, and got rid of this idea of skin dancers. That they're technically skin dancers are Stolen Moons, but they're also a rename of skin dancers without being skin dancers, because apparently there's a connotations to connect to Native American skin walkers, which is an entire thing in the Navajo culture, which is an entire different thing. I don't know if that was being culturally sensitive or not. It's one of those weird things of like, I don't know if skin dancer was close enough to skin walker or had as much connotations to it to mean something. I don't know. I'm not Navajo. But it was a reason why there was the big change, but then led to the evolution of something a little bigger, something a little different. So, yeah, we'll explore skin dancers, but I will mention now, as I do when I do there was this change because there was connotations that could have possibly connected it with something that seemed maybe culturally insensitive. And, I'm not of that culture. I can't comment whether it is or not. Someone of Navajo, descent could do that. Anyway. But yeah, there's where we get to Stolen Moons. An interesting point, because it's kind of like, it was because of a possible / perceived cultural insensitivity. Again, it could be a little of both. Because again, cultural things could be to individuals too, in a culture too. A complexity of culture and trying to be reasonable to people. It's a thing. But regardless, kind of changing what skin dancers were to the Stolen Moons means that we've opened up for a larger group. Because it isn't just them anymore. In fact, the old group, from the sounds of it, doesn't kind of exist. I mean, the changes that have happened with Werewolf 5th edition are enough for that group to kind of not exist. With the changes to, like, kinfolk, kind of. It's a mess that was created in a lot of ways, and it's kind of a very interesting thing to explore. But it does mean we've now invented something more interesting, an evolution of it, a larger, more branched group. So, if you still want to use skin dancers and honestly just rename them, perhaps? Or change things about them that you would feel would be, culturally insensitive and still use them in your games, or explain the possibilities that it could kind of be like that, but you still want to use them. There's ways to explore. I talk about this in a lot of different groups. Hey, look at all the stuff for Werewolf. There's a lot of Native American kind of things, connotations, and various, I would call them tribal kind of connotations in a lot of it. Tribal's not the right word for it. Various cultural groups that are spread across the world that tend to be oftentimes minoritized. That's not also correct either. There's a lot of connotations that tend to be with a lot of different things with the werewolf tribes, just as there is with anything World of Darkness. It's real world stuff, and it's based on cultures from different real worlds. And so you kind of have to adapt and live with that. And there's another one of those cases. But we got something interesting out of it. And I think there's one of those points in time where even if it's maybe for the right reasons, maybe for the wrong reasons, again, I don't trust 5e to make culturally appropriate decisions. Go look at stuff that happened with Vampire 5e. Yeah. That's historical at this point in time. All the mess that happened with that and things that were going. That's why I don't trust them to make these decisions while they say it's for this reason culturally. I don't trust that's a good decision for on that end. It might be. I would trust probably Onyx Path a little better. They seem to do a better job. But again, we're not talking 20th anniversary at this point in time. But again, interesting exploration of it. And I hope you've enjoyed. There's a little bit of rant at the end, honestly. That's an interesting rant. And we'll leave that there. Definitely do the Skin Dancer video in the future to talk about that particular group, which may or may not exist by 5th edition. If you want to check out more of my stuff, you can always join me live. I record all of my videos live. You can always check it out, chat in between there, do all those things. That's over on my Twitch side. But again, all the tabletop stuff over on the YouTube side. Remember for the support there. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you comment. Make sure you check it out. Other things that are on both those channels. Live plays. I've got Fall of Abyss was the current one. Wednesdays at 8 on Twitch. But I've got a selection of older ones also on YouTube. And then, of course, Discussing Tabletop, my big talk show, which dives into interesting, deeper topics in the tabletop world and tabletop news. That's at Saturdays at 6. Check out my social medias, down linked below. Of course, Discord's the best place to come, join, chat, hang out. I say the most stuff there. I tend to do the other ones afterwards. Anyway, till next time, we dive into the world of darkness and explore Werewolf, or more, or any other tabletop world. I bid all of you out there adieu. Farewell.